King James Version. And there are people today that will die saying the only correct version is the King James Version. And they will be on their deathbed and say that. Okay. I mean, there is no room with these people. And I'm trying to be nice, you know, and say these people. I mean it. I mean, I mean to be nice. I'm trying to be nice with them. Okay, but I think they can almost do more harm than good, and they are very dogmatic about it. Oh, they are hardcore. There are some things in the King James Version. Remember, King James Version was written when? 1600, something like that? So what was the language like back then? I mean, they don't even, I put the words in when I'm typing, and it comes out, it's a misspelled word. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. See, I've done a lot of funerals and stuff over the years, and stuff, and normally, or a lot of the funerals that uh, uh, you do the 23rd Psalms. Okay. I don't think there's any version out there that is as good as the King James Version for the 23rd Psalms. I mean, you go back to that poetic thing, okay, and that's exactly what it is. And it just seems to bring everything together. Thou anointest, you know, that language is just, with the 23rd Psalms, it really gets me, right? Really gets me. But that's about one of the few that in the King James Version that does. What were you going to say, Carlene? I'm sorry. Right, right. Yeah, funny how that works. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll be reading some versions, you know, and I'm thinking I have to stop and think back to the King James version. How does it go with the King James version, and then come back over here, because even though it's modern, I'm lost. Okay, but it is with us. It's what we were brought up on. Now our kids, they don't understand it. They don't understand the King James version. They don't understand that kind of talk. They don't. They don't see it as poetry. They really don't. The young people don't. It's like, what is this? You know, uh, the King James. After the King James, then for years, it was the NIV, and a lot of people still rely heavily on the NIV. I mean, for many years up until the last few, my Bible was an NIV. And then I decided to update, and I got the new American Standard Bible. But it's gone over a lot of changes too. The old American Standard Bible, what, 1911? Something like that. Anyway, that's what a lot of preachers used. And, I tried to get one of those, and they don't make them anymore. And if you want to buy a used one, they're like $400 or $500. So I thought, well, okay, I'll pay $100 and get this one. But a lot of it too is what you're paying for is, the cover and stuff. So it's just whatever you're used to. When you have a congregation like us, where we're aging, there's still people that like the King James Version. There's still people that use the NIV. I think most of our Bibles in here are NIV, I think. So, it's whichever you choose. Okay, New American Standard Bible. All right. That one got thrown in there somehow or other. Yeah, some of these over here are a lot older. But they're constantly updating these things, and so you figure out, what do I do? Well, get one and stick with it for as long as you can, and then go from there. Okay, so verse 3, then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as when he fights on a day of battle. In that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which is in front of Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives will be split in its middle from east to west by a very large valley, so that half of the mountain will move toward the north and the other half toward the south. You will flee by the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains will reach to Hazel. Yes, you will flee just as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. In that day there will be no light. No luminaries will dwindle. There will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle, for it will be a unique day which is known to the Lord. Neither day nor night, but it will come about that at evening time there will be light. And in that day, living waters will flow out of Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and the other half toward the western sea. It will be in summer as well as in winter. And the Lord will be king over all the earth in that day. The Lord will be the only one, and his name the only one. All the land will be changed into a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. But Jerusalem will rise and remain on its site, from Benjamin's gate as far as the place of the first gate to the corner gate, from the tower of Hanel to the king's winepress. I almost need a map to figure out what it's talking about here, but people will live in it, and there will no longer be a curse, for Jerusalem will dwell in security. Now this will be the plague with which the Lord will strike at the peoples who have gone to war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they stand on their feet, and their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongue will rot in their mouth. It will come about in that day that a great panic from the Lord will fall on them, and they will seize one another's hand, and the hand of the one will be lifted against the hand of another. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations will be gathered, gold and silver and garments in great abundance. So also like this, plague will be the plague on the horse, the mule, the camel, the donkey, and all the cattle that will be in those camps. Then it will come about that any who are left of all the nations that went against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to celebrate the feast of Botha. And it will be that whichever of the families of the earth does not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and there will be no rain on them. If the family of Egypt does not go up or enter, then no rain will fall on them. It will be the plague with which the Lord smites the nations who do not go up to celebrate the feast of Botha. This will be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations who do not go up to celebrate the feast of Botha. In that day there will be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to the Lord. And the cooking pots and the Lord's house will be like the bowls from before the altar, the bowls before the altar. Every cooking pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holy to the Lord of hosts, and all who sacrifice will come and take of them and boil in them, and there will no longer be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts in that day. Okay, so this is a pretty difficult chapter. Remaining true to form for the second half of Zechariah, chapters 9 through 14. There are parts of this chapter where the text has been damaged, and its exact reading is somewhat uncertain. Therefore, it is necessary to keep that part in context with what is being talked about. I'm hoping that by reading a passage in the New Testament, we can gain a lot of insight into what is being talked about here in the 14th chapter. The New Testament chapter is a section taught by the Lord himself, Jesus Christ. In many ways, it's almost as if he were explaining this 14th chapter. We're in the 14th chapter of Zechariah. The New Testament chapter is a section taught by the Lord himself, Jesus Christ, and in many ways it's almost as if he were explaining this 14th chapter. Both chapters have a dual theme. One, the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, and two, the time of the end of the world. I want to read this New Testament chapter. It's Matthew 24, chapter 24. Let's see if it doesn't closely parallel the 14th chapter of Zechariah. 24th chapter of Matthew. Jesus left the temple area and was going on his way when his disciples came up to a point out in the temple buildings to him. But he responded and said to them, "Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, not one stone here will be left upon another, which will not be torn down." And as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, See to it that no one misleads you. For many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and they will mislead many people. And you will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for those things must take place. But that is not yet the end. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. But all these things are entirely the beginning of birth pains. Then they will hand you over to tribulation and kill you. And you will be hated by all nations because of my name. And at that time, many will fall away, and they will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will rise up, and many people. And because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will become cold. But the one who endures to the end is the one who will be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. Whoever is on the housetop must not go down to get things out of his house. And whoever is in the field must not turn back to get his cloak. But woe to those women who are pregnant and in those who are nursing babies in those days. Moreover, pray that when you flee, it will not be in the winter or on a Sabbath. For when there will be a great tribulation, such as has not recurred or has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor will it ever again, nor ever will it again. And if those days had not been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or he is over here, do not believe him. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will provide great signs and wonders so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you in advance. So if they say to you, behold, he is in the wilderness, do not go out. Or behold, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe them. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet blast, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. Now learn the parable from the fig tree. As soon as its branch has become tender and sprouts its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly, sorry. Moreover, pray that when you flee, it will not be in the winter of the Sabbath, for there will be great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor will ever again. And if those days had not been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or he is over here, do not believe him. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will provide great signs and wonders so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you in advance. So if they say to you, behold, he is in the wilderness, do not go out for him. Do not go out, or behold, he is in the inner rooms. Do not believe them. For just as the lightning comes from the east and the flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. And the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet blast, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. Now learn the parable from the fig tree. As soon as its branch has become tender and sprouts its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But about that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. For the coming of the Son of Man will be just like the days of Noah. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. And they did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. So will the coming of the Son of Man be. At that time there will be two men in the field. One will be taken, and one will be left. Two women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, and one will be left. Therefore be on the alert, for you do not know which day your Lord is coming. But be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason, you must be ready as well, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not think he will. Who then is the faithful and sensible slave whom his master put in charge of his household slaves to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master finds so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that evil slave says in his heart, my master is not coming for a long time, and he begins to beat the fellow slaves, and he eats and drinks with those habitually drunk, then the master of that slave will come on a day that he does not expect, and at that hour that he does not know. And he will cut him in two and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there were a lot of similarities in Matthew with Zechariah, the 14th chapter. I think in this 24th chapter of Matthew, we are going to see an expansion and elaboration of Zechariah's prophecy. On that day is referred to in Zechariah 14th chapter. On that day is referred to 7 times in the NASB. Okay. Verse 4 is on that day, or in that day. Verses 6 and 7 on that day. Verse 8, and on that day, verse 9. On that day. Verse 13, it should come to pass on that day. Verse 20, on that day. And then verse 20, 21, and on that day. So if it's being repeated that many times, you need to start paying attention, all right? Once again, this is a period of time referred to as a Christian dispensation. We need to remember that this period of time is from the time of the day of Pentecost to Judgment Day. Certainly that entire period of time is what is being talked about here. As we begin the study of this chapter's first 5 verses, we will see it pertains to the destruction of Jerusalem, the literal city. Verses 1 and 2, behold, a day is coming for the Lord when the spoils taken from you will be divided among you. For I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be taken, the houses plundered, the women raped, and half of the city exiled. But the rest of the people will not be eliminated from the city. I'll stop here and we'll pick up next week. Thank you for your attendance. It's good to have you back, Randy and Carlene. You guys had quite a trip, huh? But hopefully some good came from it.
The ESV, I have 2, ESV and NIV.
Yeah, English Standard Version.
And the NIV, that's my 2. And mine says Feast of Booths, Feast of the Tabernacle. Now, what was yours saying? Feast of what? On, I think it's 6, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Feast of the, and I couldn't catch what words you were saying.
All right, I'll get with you in just a minute. Let me get this done so Don can come down here.